Hello, it is Rachel from The Nerdy Homeschooler, and I am coming to you with a recap of August, the month of August in our homeschool. And let me tell you, August was a month. Now, in the comment section down below, feel free to chat with me, share some of your favorite things, share any adjustments and adaptations that you made during the month of August in your homeschool, what you're reflecting and realizing. I love to chat with you about all of our homeschool journeys. That's why this is the Nerdy Homeschooler over here. But yeah, I'm feeling a little tired and it's only, the beginning of the school year. So maybe that's not great. I would say August was a lot of adulting, a lot of parenting, a lot of life. I usually say homeschooling never really seems like it's the hard part. I mean, sitting around reading books about ancient India or sitting around and molding landforms out of clay, that's never going to be the hard part, That's the fun stuff. But homeschool doesn't happen in a vacuum. Homeschool is happening in the midst of real life and in the midst of human frailty. And that's what can be somewhat challenging at times. So yeah, it has been a month. We have a really big change that is really going to impact our everyday life that we've been kind of facing and problem solving and figuring out what to do with this month. And I'm going to address that. But that's a bit of a long story. So first I'm going to just tackle some of the curriculum updates and my reflections and experiences with the resources we're using, because I know that that's what a lot of you are interested in. So first I'll tackle those updates. So first up, one thought I've had during this month, we are using first language lessons level 3. My son has already done level 1 and level 2, and we're using level 3, but he is a second grader. And what I have realized both from getting this program, and then I purchased level 4, as well as the next program from the Well-Trained Mind, which is grammar lessons for the Well-Trained Mind, if I remember the name correctly. After purchasing those higher levels and kind of seeing the trajectory of this curriculum, and then putting this into action with my son, I've actually decided to slow down a bit on the progress. To finish this level in a year, you should be doing 3 lessons in a week. We're still going to be doing this frequently. I do it actually almost every day, almost every school day, but I am not trying to do 1 lesson every time we do this. I am slowing this down. So, maybe we're going to be getting 2 lessons of this done in a week, but I'm breaking up some of these lessons. I'm spending an extra day on review. I've taken some extra days where, okay, we've been going over nouns for a few lessons. Now we're just going to make a review page about how to make the plural forms of nouns. Or we were going through pronouns for a couple lessons. Okay, we're going to make a review page all about the different pronouns and who they refer to. So I'm kind of taking my time with review, deciding we're going to stretch this out, and this is probably going to take us more than a year to complete, very intentionally, because seeing where this program is going, and I like this program, but I don't necessarily want to get there while my son is still on the younger side. I want to take our time with it and do it well. So that's one adaptation that I'm making. I'm not going to attempt to be making sure we're completing 3 lessons a week. We're slowing down on this. We're still doing it. And I'm just, breaking a lesson apart, doing some extra review, and really appreciating and enjoying this. Next up, my son finished Yamitas level 2 this month, and I have level 3 on deck ready to go. But I actually decided we are going to pause. And this is also kind of from seeing the trajectory of where Yamitas is going with level 3 and with level 4 as well. Pause. I don't want to get too far into this too soon and too early. And it's also because of the other Spanish work that he's currently doing. So he is still currently working through Trabajando con Palabras 2. He is more than halfway through the book. So this is not going to take him too much longer, another month or 2 maybe. And he's come a long way with his Spanish reading, but we're still really working on building up fluency and really getting smooth with our reading. So he's working on that. And I have added in Entre Palabras 1, which this is more challenging. This is even more challenging for me because this is more of a curriculum designed for fluent or native Spanish speakers, which does not describe me. So I am having to look up a word here and there that is unfamiliar to me. And there is, more reading expectation happening in this, more unfamiliar vocabulary. And I'm glad about that. I'm glad that we can use resources like this that are introducing us to vocab that doesn't pop up in everyday life. but that is more of a stretch and a challenge. So because we're doing this and we're still doing Trabajando con Palabras, I decided let's wait on Llamitas 3 for a bit, probably until we finish this. And then we'll head into the next level of Llamitas once this one is done, so that I'm not piling on too much in similar type of work. Llamitas is different because it's bringing us vocabulary from different subject areas. We really enjoy it. But yeah, I'm just going to spend a little bit more time on just the reading and the mechanics, and then we'll jump into level 3 once we finish Trabajando con Palabras. Then my kindergartner is using level 1 of Trabajando con Palabras, and I'm just so happy with how this is going with him. I feel like his start in Spanish reading is actually going a lot smoother than it did for my oldest. This is just a system that clicks with him. This just introduction to the basic syllables, and then reading words and practicing with those words and practicing with those words. So I'm so excited. You know, yesterday he read a sentence in Spanish, and it still took work. He had to sound out every syllable, but he read a whole sentence and he understood the whole sentence. And so, you know, I asked him, hey, ¿hay comida en esta isla? Is there food on this island? And he told me, sí, there's coconuts. And I have to say, I kind of thought the answer would be no, because I was not thinking about the coconuts. Then we are going through ancient world history. We just got to ancient India this past week. This is going fantastic. Yes, I did write my dream ancient history curriculum, and it shows when I'm using it. Like, this is exactly what I hoped for, reading these really vivid books and seeing my son just enthralled with these stories and really connecting with the past, engaging with it. I love his history notebooking, how that's coming to life too. And then science is also been a hit. I feel like I'm actually liking Sunlight Science B more than I liked Science A. And maybe because we're not using the same spine anymore, and I just didn't necessarily love the spine, but also the science experiments that they've started with in these first handful of weeks. I think we're in week 4, maybe 5 now. The science experiments have been really strong for these first couple of weeks. The theme, kind of the topic we've been doing, has been basically earth science type of topics. So earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, tectonic plates, like that type of typical earth science subjects, and weathering, erosion. So we had a really cool experiment where we got to make sand by basically shaking rocks together in a container and shaking them very vigorously and then dumping them out and seeing we made sand. And that was totally wow moment for my boys. They actually went to church and were telling people that they made sand this week. Then we used sugar cubes as a stand-in for rocks, and we shook those around to be able to view the effects of weathering and see how they went from these sugar cubes to more rounded and smooth, and to see how, you know, sharp, jagged rocks get more rounded and smooth under the influence of weathering on the beaches and in the oceans and so on. So that was a really cool, very memorable experiment. Actually, the next experiment we're supposed to do is supposed to involve building houses out of toothpicks and mini marshmallows, and I really want to do that one. And I know my kids will really enjoy it. However, I've not been able to find mini marshmallows yet. That is just one of those things that where I live, it can be surprisingly hard to find mini marshmallows. Like, they definitely do sell them, but which grocery store happens to have mini marshmallows at any given moment can be a mystery. I went to one store that I thought would have them, and they did not. So I'm gonna have to keep looking. I don't want to give up on that experiment. And now for the big update that's going to have a significant impact on our everyday lives. And for this, you're gonna need some backstory. Now, depending on how long you've watched my channel, you may already know, or you may not know, that I, together with my family, have been involved with operating a small local learning center for the past 8+ years. Now, this isn't something I've talked about a whole lot, as it just doesn't tend to impact my content all that much. I think it came up more back when I was doing more regular vlogging, because you would see that we would go there in the afternoons. But this learning center has been a part of my daily life since before I had kids. Now, at our learning center, we have always sought to bring an individualized homeschool type approach to help students who have very severe struggles in traditional learning settings, in traditional schools, and to help meet them where they're at and help them make real progress. Now, my role at the center has definitely shifted and looked different in different seasons of life. When we opened and I didn't have any kids, that's where I was every day, working with my students. I actually have a picture of back when my first son was 2 months old of him laying down on the floor, just surrounded by a whole bunch of students looking down on him and playing with him because he was such an entertaining toy for them to distract them. Then COVID lockdowns came around and we had to close and move to Zoom calls just like everybody else. And during that season, I picked up this new hobby of making YouTube videos to help keep myself sane. And like I said, over the years, my role has shifted. You know, by the grace of God, my hands are much fuller than they used to be. I have these 3 wonderful sons who keep me very busy. So in recent years, I have pulled back and limited on the number of students that I work with, but our routine over the past several years, pretty much as long as my boys can remember, has been that in the mornings we do homeschool at home here, and then in the afternoons we go to the learning center, and they get to see their friends, and they get to see their grandma and their aunties, and we're working together, and we have our classes and our lessons that are going on, and then we come home at the end of the school day at the learning center. So for years, I've spent 4 afternoons there a week. I've had 1 afternoon at home to have time to clean my house and take care of the housework. But now, all of that is going to change. Our everyday routine is going to be very, very different. And this is because we found out unexpectedly that we weren't going to be able to renew the lease on the rental space that we've had for over 8 years. And then the setup costs and all the initial expense of renovating a whole new space is just realistically too much. So we are closing down the learning space that we've been running for 8 years, and we are closing it down as a business. It was never really a great business. It was always much more of a passion project. And I do want to say thank you to my YouTube channel subscribers and my viewers for always supporting this passion project. I have always put my YouTube AdSense ad revenue into help paying the expenses on our rental space. So I really appreciated that. So we're not going to have our space anymore, but I'm not saying goodbye to our students. Instead, we are just downsizing, and we are just going to have lessons and class time here in my home. Now, this will be a big adjustment for us, and there will be bumps in the road. There's going to be a lot of adjustment. It's going to take some work to really build a solid routine and get used to and prepared for and adjusted to having other people in our home 4 or 5 days a week. My students and my kids are best friends. They love to play together. They love having play dates. They've been growing up together all these years, but now they're going to have to get used to this idea. Okay, we're coming over, but it's not a play date. This is learning time. And this is emotional for me. I've been, grieving and feeling all of the feelings recently because it's the end of an era. I'm going to miss our place. We had a really, really nice setup. I have a giant chalkboard wall there. That was my big request when we were first doing the initial renovations to open up, that I'd seen this on Instagram. I just wanted a huge chalkboard wall. And we have so many fun memories of different things that we've done with that chalkboard wall over the years. We turned it into a giant solar system. One time we each drew our own Christmas tree on the wall and decorated our Christmas trees on the wall. We've had drawing competitions. We've written the ABCs. We've done a lot of fun stuff with our giant chalkboard wall. And now there will be no more chalkboard wall. So I was really, really sad when we got the news that renewing the lease wouldn't be possible. But I have to say, I am also seeing the grace in this change. Because I was already wondering how realistically we were going to be able to manage operating the learning center, especially with my sister now being gone to college. She helped so much over the past year. I have 3 kids now, 2 school age, 1 busy toddler. Like I said, my hands are a little fuller than they used to be. I don't have as much external capacity in this season. And I don't think I would have willingly said goodbye of my own volition. But without a real choice, I am seeing the grace and the potential in simplifying and in being home more. I know my husband sees some of the potential in not having other things that are probably going to need to be fixed, like the sink at the learning center and the lights at the learning center. Simplifying, having a little bit less managing of things in our life. Will this bring more margin? We will see. I know already the transition will not be perfectly smooth. The transition has already begun. We've actually done 2 days of having our students in the house over here, running classes at home. We have begun the process of moving all of the things into our home. We are still needing to downsize. We have a large home, which is what makes this possible. It's not quite large enough to fit a family of 5 plus everything that was in our learning center. So this is going to be a process. But thanks guys for listening and hearing me through this big change. I've updated you on many different changes over the years. This is one that caught me a bit by surprise. We're gonna see how this goes. September will be our first month of homeschooling, and then also having our very dear friends and my students in our home during the afternoon time as well. And we'll figure out our new rhythm and we'll make it work. All right, let me know your updates from August. I want to hear from you. Leave me a comment and I will see you next time for more nerdy homeschool videos. Bye.